been through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
Boom! Booyah shaka. What is going on, people? You know what time it is? You already know what it is, G, and we are back in the building. You guys can obviously see on the screen, we're here with another player watch, scout watch, the whole nine. And today we've actually got an interesting player here, looking at young Spanish defender, Arnau Martinez. He can play right back. He can play centre back as well. Plays for Girona in La Liga. Very, very good player. Very, very good player. Only 20 years of age. Yeah, he's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Someone I just kind of came across, to be honest, doing a bit of research. Looks like a very, very decent player. Looks like a very good player for the future. Has had both Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, who have been both looking at him. And if I'm being totally honest, I feel like he's going to potentially, if not already, making moves towards, moving to bigger clubs. But, we'll see, in the future how that kind of pans out. But I did want to take a look at him as well. Also, so I didn't put him in my summer transfer targets or anything. He's not really someone I've seen that much of, so I didn't really want to put him in there without really taking a real look at him, to be honest with you. But at the same time, from the fact that Liverpool are potentially looking at someone who can play potentially at right back, centre back as well. I know we're looking at potentially as well on top of that, left-sided centre backs and left backs and blah blah blah. But I do think the right side is definitely, I think the right and left side, I've said it many a time on transfer targets, scout watches, player watches, the whole lot that I do on the channel. I think those are two areas of the pitch that Liverpool do need to improve upon, in terms of the players that we've currently got there. So yeah, I think he's a very, very interesting player, and I did want to just take a little deep dive into him, just the type of player that he is. But obviously, before we even start, guys, if you're already 3 minutes into the video, please make sure you've hit that like button. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. So Arnau Martinez, like I mentioned, man, he's a versatile individual. Mostly played at right back this season, or the 2022-23 season. How would I describe him before we even get really into the real scout reports and stuff? Versatile, as I mentioned, marauding when he is on that right hand side. He's very comfortable on the ball, and that seems to be the buzzword for a lot of players that anybody's looking for, to be honest. Even Manchester United signing Onana. Why did they sign Onana? It wasn't for his goalkeeping skills, I'll tell you that much. It's the sheer fact that he's comfortable on the ball. He's somebody who can play out from the back. And I think that Martinez is definitely a player I would put in that kind of bracket of someone who can play out from the back, comfortable on the ball, can pick out a pass as well, thread those passes into the midfield, into the attack if needed be. But also when he is playing in that centre-back role mainly, he is quite assured of himself. He's a decent tackler, good at interceptions, tackles. Again, we'll get into all of that stuff. But yeah, overall, I think you've got he's 20 years of age. So, it is one of those ones where it's difficult to really judge a player, because you're talking about 20-year-old players, if they haven't had too much experience. I mean, he's had, I was taking a look, a minute ago. He's had quite a bit of experience. I mean, last season he played 35 games in all competitions, got himself 3 goals. He got 4 assists. As well, 33 games in La Liga. So, he's got a bit of experience, placed behind him, if I'm being totally honest with you. And even when I'm thinking about, his international, so-called career, I mean, he is a Spain under-21s international, has played 9 games for them as well. Again, look, you don't have Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, top clubs out there looking at you, if you're not doing something right. And I think the fact that he's been able to come through, the youth ranks and stuff like that, I think really does bode well, for him. I mean, he was at Barcelona beforehand, in his youth career, as most of these players seem to be either come from Barcelona or Real Madrid or Atletico, Madrid over there in Spain. Obviously didn't quite make the grade, when he was younger. Then that's obviously moved around. He's found a home at Girona, and, ever since 2018, he's kind of been a fixture taking a look here, he's been a fixture in the side. So decent player. I'm not saying go out there, sign him. I'm not saying, he's a must and things like that. But I am saying that he is an up and coming. A bit like maybe not to, it could be on the same level as Fresneda. Ivan Fresneda, I think is Real Valladolid. He's a right back for them. I know that Barcelona are looking at him as well. So again, these kind of players, yes, they might not be big in name, but in terms of the qualities, and we'll get into that, and the skill set that they do and the attributes that they've got, these are players that, maybe might go under the radar in terms of how big of a name they actually are, but they could be players that could be useful, to some of the bigger clubs, out there. But enough of that rubbish. Let's dive into the type of player that he is. Take a look here at his heat map. Let's take this off for you guys. Yeah, take a look at his heat map. As I mentioned before, he does obviously play, on that right hand side. I think this season played 31 times as a right back. That's where he's got his goals and assists from, which obviously tells you the kind of output that he's able to put forward. And this is for Girona. This isn't for one of the top teams out there. Played at right midfield, played at centre back as well. So again, the versatility, we all know with Jurgen Klopp, especially the type of versatility that he is looking for, with his players, to be able to play in more than one position, even though I'm not too much of a fan of that in certain areas of the pitch. But at the same time, if that's something that, might be of use, then I can't really see too much wrong with it, only in certain positions. And looking at this heat map here, predominantly on that right hand side, as I mentioned, 31 times over there, is that potentially a right back area? Because it's almost like, it's weird because we've got Conor Bradley, got Calvin Ramsey, and we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, and we've got Gomez there already. So people are probably thinking, well, why would you go out and sign someone else? And Klopp might also be thinking the exact same thing, which would make sense to a certain degree. But I think when we're looking at some of these players, with how Liverpool might be moving into this new era, into this new kind of direction of playing football instead of just, running on intensity and, all those kind of things, the physical kind of aspects of the game, I think we are going to start needing to look at some of these more cultured players, so to speak. I'm not saying that not every player can, that we've got at the moment can't do these kind of roles, but we are seeing the deficiencies more so than their strengths with a lot of these players, within these kind of roles. And I think that's one thing that I'm quite, conscious of, so to speak. Took a look here. This is obviously his stats back in the 21-22 season, obviously back when Girona were in La Liga 2. Played 42 times, 2 goals, 6 assists. Again, output. That's something, a lot of people are looking for, especially, 6 assists, in a league is really, really good. But that's something that people are looking for more so now with a lot of their fullbacks. Are they giving me more than just being able to be a defender? I know that sounds a bit silly, but unfortunately, fortunately, whichever side you're on, that's kind of where we're heading at this current moment in time, in regards to, players of today. And I think it's just more because of the positions that some of these players are obviously taking up, and obviously the position that he's playing in for Girona, he's more of a creative outlet, for them. And I think especially when I'm looking at Joe Gomez, do I think he's a creative outlet? No. No goals. I don't know how many assists, maybe a couple of assists, in the years that he's been at Liverpool. Is that if you're then trying to play more or less the same style of football, but you haven't got Trent in that position, do you then need to look potentially at who else can fill in that spot? Obviously, Conor Bradley is there, but it's funny because Conor Bradley's 19, I believe, 19 or 20. Martinez is 20 years of age and he's already got more experience. And again, this is why I stress so much about players going out on loan, stuff like this, because unfortunately we're going to compare you to players, your age mates, so to speak. So if we're comparing you to your age mates have got more experience and played at higher levels a lot longer than yourself. So then it's difficult for you to then stake a claim, so to speak. I know we need to give people chances, but this is why loans are so important, and why potentially going to like a Bolton, like a Conor Bradley has, and then saying, can he step up to Liverpool Football Club? That I don't feel like that transition is going to be as easy as you playing in La Liga for a season, and obviously playing in La Liga 2 the season before that. I feel like the transition shouldn't be as hard and as difficult, as it would be for Conor Bradley. This is obviously the roles that he played in. Right back, as I said, right midfield, more so in that season, 11 times over there, 29 at right back, twice at centre back. So again, that versatility, being able to play in those positions, again, also showing that he's comfortable in those kind of positions. When we look here, obviously this is more his roles, obviously from the season, as I said before. So he's gone from this, where he played a lot of times at that right midfield, and then obviously he's clearly found his kind of role, his kind of berth in that right back slot. But again, he can obviously play at that centre back and right midfield positions. When we take a look here, you can see just the little stats from him. Again, not overly perfect in many of these, but he's got good, decent stats. This is against other fullbacks around Europe. So, the fact that, again, 20 years of age, isn't highly experienced at the top level, but is experienced at the top level in Spain. Again, showing that he can actually do the business. I look down at, the blocks, in 81 percentile. Then if we move up, we're looking at even the touches in attacking penalty area, successful take-ons, pass completion, shot creating actions, things like that. Decent enough. And here, we're looking at his passing stats, key passes, 80th percentile, really, really good. I do like that, because I think, as I mentioned before, we do need a player potentially, who could slot in to that kind of role, pass completion and things like that. So again, you guys can take a look for yourselves on the website, or you can pause this and and literally take a look. But when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty decent. Again, this isn't a player who's playing at the top level or anything, like playing at his top level, should I say. Sorry, this is a player who's still kind of finding his feet, so to speak. He's still kind of getting himself in there. And even if you look at his defensive stats and stuff like that, again, dribbles challenged, per 90, 2.8, 92 percentile, tackled, dribblers tackled, the 70th percentile, still pretty decent. And again, context, of course, because if we were looking at, I don't know, a more experienced individual, and these are the kind of numbers that you're putting up, you wouldn't be overly fascinated. But you're talking about, this is a 20-year-old playing in a team that isn't that good. It's all about the context. It's always going to be about the context, to be honest with you. And this is a guy who obviously only made his debut for Girona, in 2021. So again, he's only been doing this for a couple of seasons, and he seems to be going from strength to strength. And as I mentioned before, having Barcelona, Atletico Madrid looking at you at the bare minimum, it's some level of indication. But again, not to get too overly excited. And this obviously the shooting stats and stuff like that. Again, he gets goals and he gets assists again, and I like that. Really about him. Average shot distance, goals shot on targets, goals to shot, goals in general. These are real good numbers, man. As I mentioned, you guys go check this out for yourself. And he's not a player that I've watched extensively, seen a couple of times, more highlights and things like that. But it just seemed to be a name that just happened to be ringing about. Martinez, and seen him play for the under 21s as well. Definitely caught an eye. Definitely caught an eye. If you look here at his style of play, he's a right-footed right back who's extremely well-rounded and is able to dictate the speed of play by being able come close to the defensive pairing, helping them escape a press, and then can turn really well and distribute the ball whilst remaining composed. He's only 5'9", which is actually quite crazy. I know we prefer to have maybe potentially taller players, in that position. But, even just looking at this here, well-rounded, he's able to dictate the speed of play, helping the team, in terms of escape a press, distribute the ball really, really well. Again, buzzwords, I know, of course, and, maybe, who knows, the club might have already scouted a player like this already. He might be on a radar, so to speak. I might wake up tomorrow morning and find out we've already signed someone like him. But again, I'm looking at these little things, these little intricacies in terms of the players that we're trying to sign, the players that we're potentially looking at. Are we going too much for the big names potentially in our minds, obviously, because those are the names that we know, more about. And again, you've got players like this who might be going a little bit under the radar, and he's exhibiting attributes and is producing the type of numbers, stats, eye test that you would look at in other players. So, could be someone that, you might potentially want to take a look at. Tactically, Martinez fits very well with Girona. His high tempo and work rate translates well to a high pressing squad. Again, what do Liverpool play? High press. Martinez's use of width as a playmaker and his frequent support runs are perfect for the wingback role he must play under Mikel. Overall, his play style is tactically flexible and will be suitable for any high tempo club that mainly look to the wings to create chances. Does that not sound like Liverpool Football Club? I know now we've got McAllister. I know now we've got Soboslai. I also didn't want to, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, I also didn't want to include him in my summer transfer targets purely just out of not watching him enough to really make that final judgment. But from the little that I have seen of him and the things that are being talked about in regards to him, again, we're seeing all of this little snippet, this little video that I might do here is just a little insight into the type of player that he is. Maybe, you know, over the course of the season, if he doesn't leave Girona and he stays there, you know, next season he's definitely a player on my watch. He's definitely a player to look at and think, you know what, if he can have another decent season, you know, next season, why not? You know, why not? Wouldn't that be the type of player? I don't know the type of fee that it would cost to get someone like him out of there. I don't envisage it unless he's got a high release clause. I don't envisage it being too high. But if not, again, you know, I've just seen Chelsea, I think, by Disasi. You know, he would have been a player that I would have definitely have thought of, you know, maybe why not try and grab someone like him, but again, off the market. Not a big name, you know, not a big name unless you're really deep into the football world kind of thing. But again, these kind of signings, these type of players, you know, they're all there. There's so many out there in the world of football that we're just not necessarily, you know, seeing. Lastly, here on the offensive end, the Spain youth international is a creative threat and effective ball carrier. Martinez flies in with support runs out wide on the right, receiving the ball and often picking out a pass in the box to put the defense under pressure. His ground passes and crosses are almost well weighted. Again, this is what you want to see. Comfortable on the ball, able to bring the ball out, comfortable in possession, can pick out the pass on the right-hand side. Again, he's so comfortable on that side. He can put in good crosses into the box, but he's still defensively astute. And that is obviously always going to be key. It is great being someone who can play centre back, play right back, whatever defensive position. But if you're not really good defensively, you will get shown up every now and again. You know, the top teams, especially because of how other teams like to sit and play sometimes, you'll always be seen as a bit of a weakness. And I think that right back / right centre back area for me, I just need, it doesn't need, when I mention experience, it doesn't necessarily need to be someone who's 25, 26, 27. That'll be great, of course, if you can get someone like that in. But if not, why not get someone who's already still quite young, so it can still be developed into whatever it is you need for your team, but is already kind of at a very good base level. That's something I think we are lacking in that kind, especially the right back area. I think that's something we are severely lacking. Again, your only options now are Connor Bradley and, you know, Calvin Ramsey. You know, are they sufficient enough, you know, moving forward? Calvin Ramsey, I know he's been injured and stuff like that. He was at Aberdeen. But for me, if I'm looking at the two, you know, Martinez seems to be at a better base level, you know, than a Calvin Ramsey. Of course, Calvin Ramsey might have an amazing season, but Connor Bradley had a really good season at Bolton. Is that enough really to push Trent Alexander-Arnold? But you don't necessarily have to knock him out of the team. I mean, that'd be great too as well, you know, because it provides that competition. And it also shows that even if Trent's having bad runs and a bad game and stuff like that, you're able to still come in. But at the same time, have that base level and playing in this three at the back or whatever it is that we are doing. I don't know what they actually call it. I would love to hear what Klopp would say, but playing with those three central defenders, so to speak, on that side, at times Ibu doesn't always look too comfortable, and it would be nice to have someone just comfortable on that side. Is he better than Ibu? No, of course not. No, I don't think he's even close, you know, to Ibu's kind of level. Ibu's more established, you know, played at this highest level, World Cups, Champions League finals, and, you know, for Liverpool and stuff like that. So, of course, I'm definitely not trying to say that. What I am saying is that just taking a look at different options who can come in and rotate, where we're not all sitting there and thinking to ourselves, oh, he's playing now, or oh, that person is playing, you know? So, again, it was just more really to take a look, you know, at someone like Martinez. I think he's a decent little player. I think I'm not saying we are looking at him, but if we're not, then, you know, the other top clubs out there in Europe are already looking, as I mentioned, at Barcelona, Atletico Madrid being the two in Spain anyway, who are looking at him. And I'm sure there's there's others out there. If we're not going to go and get someone like him, someone else will, and he would go on to develop to be a very, very good player. But we'll wait and we'll see. We'll wait and we shall see with someone like Martinez. Let me know what you guys obviously think in the comment section. Again, don't know too much about him, which is absolutely fine. Again, go away this next season, have a watch of him. As I mentioned, he's 20 years of age, under 21 international, so you'll be able to see him for the internationals, but just see how he actually plays. When I'm watching some of the highlights and things like that, some of the positions he does take up on the pitch as well, very interesting, because he seems to be someone who positionally, he's got a very good IQ. He seems to understand where and when he needs to do certain actions, or move into certain positions, to receive the ball or to receive a pass, or where he needs to be, pass and move, good combinations and things like that. So, like I mentioned, not going to be a top player on many people's list, but he's definitely a player that I do think that quite a lot of individuals will start, looking at in the future, well-rounded. So, why not? Why not? But guys, let me know, obviously, Arnau Martinez, Spanish youth international. Let me know what you guys think about him for the future. New name to pop up. I'm going to start throwing some new ones out there instead of the ones that are always linked with Liverpool. So let me know what you guys think. I'm G. That's a Scout Watch done and dusted, and we are out.